Oh, thanks, man. I have something for you, too. Ta-da!
I can't play video games.
Right. Guess I'm gonna have to play it. Back in the olden days of physical media, gaming magazines would often come with demo discs, and sometimes you'd even get a full game. When we got our first PC, my dad was gifted a ton of these by a friend, and they made up the majority of my earliest gaming experiences. And amongst the sea of demos laid a little game called Slave Zero. Something's wrong, Chan. Released in 1999 for both PC and Dreamcast, the game was met with a mostly lukewarm response. The Dreamcast version especially lacked features and was barely playable. My magazine copies from 2001, so clearly it didn't last on shelves for very long. Now, as a child, I didn't know what a review was, but I know what Slave Zero was. Freaking cool as heck. You could not stop me playing this at one point, which is funny because much like with Bionicle, I basically never got past the second level. On a few occasions, I'd even get my mom to play certain parts for me, and though I sucked and couldn't understand a word of English, I still loved the game for what it was. So much so, in fact, I bought the game on Steam a few years ago, but as is customary with Steam games, it didn't touch it at all. But a few months ago, I happened upon the trailer for Slave Zero X, a prequel to Slave Zero set to release in 2024. Feeling nostalgic, I concluded it was finally time to cross this one off my list and make a video as an excuse. Darkness has befallen the first dynasty of the second millennium. The Sovereign Khan has strengthened his hold on the Asian conglomerates by seizing control of the towering capital, Megacity S19. That's just freaking cool, man. Basically, in the future, the Sovereign Khan rules most of the world, and he's making an army of artificially grown biomechanical beings called slaves. We play as Slave Zero, a unit stolen by the Resistance that is merged with the consciousness of one of its members, a warrior named Chan. After a short cutscene, we emerge from the sewers, ready to rampage. And rampage we do, Jesus Christ! Sorry man, happy birthday! While you aren't exactly 60 foot tall as advertised, the game best sells the heft of your movements in these starting areas. Zero can stomp and pick up all sorts of objects, including people, and chuck them, which is sick but kinda useless compared to the weapons. Right off the bat, we're sporting a rocket launcher and an Uzi of sorts, both of which you can find upgrades for. Most freestanding buildings are destructible, and some of them hide ammo and health, but honestly you'll do just fine with pickups scattered throughout the levels. We soon face our first enemy, and I love how there's little tanks and humans only in the first few minutes. It's like they quickly realized, oh shit, maybe we should use the robots. We destroy a few reactors and fight a Titan Sentinel mini-boss, who becomes a regular enemy later on. With a comms array blowed up, we move to infiltrate the Softcon's labs, to steal embryos and make more robots for the rebels. Slave Zero does a great job of switching up the scenery in each mission, while still maintaining a coherent atmosphere. This wasn't a massive production, and on a modern system you can clearly see the seams, but it's impressive nonetheless. And though the levels aren't as massive as the game needed to sell its scale, there is always some degree of verticality in each environment to spruce up the gameplay. I also love the little details like ads, little parks, and the strangely alluring pools of water. You guys also love video game water? Is that just me? Am I weird for bathing him? Anyway, we forge on, fighting the bothersome flying enemy that every sci-fi shooter had to have, this sewer spider that I was scared of as a kid, and a spaceship that just sits there. When we reach the embryos, we get our first true boss fight, and I think it's safe to say most bosses in Slave Zero are a bit more style than substance, this one being no exception. But hey, at least he's not a ship. After the boss gets flushed away, we descend deeper into the sewers and defend the rebel base, later escorting a convoy through the spider-infested tunnels. And we meet the bomb spider. Once the lads are safe, it's time for yet another boss fight. Sanguinar is definitely one of the better ones, forcing you to ascend this spiral structure as the whole thing fills with acid. His design is also pretty sick. I mean, most of the enemies in Slave Zero are quite visually striking, even if they don't always bring the heat gameplay-wise. Although for some reason, a lot of them have this death beam that just blocks onto you, Sanguinar here included, and it goes on for a bit too long, so if you aren't hiding behind something, it's game over. Our next stop is the train yard, where we have to battle the train array itself.
Really, there's not even like a nefarious little guy controlling it. It's just a big neon target that goes peekaboo once every 2 turns. The trains are dangerous though. On our way to the elusive embryos, we pick up the hands down coolest weapon upgrade in the game, the Valhalla class rocket launcher. Oh, that's chunky. Slave Zero's got some kick-ass weaponry, but some of the later tiers fail to sell that progression in either gameplay or visuals or both. The Hellspike, for example, is fun to use, but the sound just doesn't match the power we see on screen. The Siege Cannon sounds hefty, but lacks the impact in gameplay. And the Plasma Stream Ejector lags both, while eating through ammo like a little mouse-type character through cheese. If you play this, just keep Valhalla and Hellspike, you'll thank me later. Fighting our way towards the embryos, there's another mini-boss soon to be regular enemy. Oh shit, I just noticed the thruster set the trees on fire. Cool little detail. Anyway, we finally locate and defend the little guys until the rebels can grab them. The Southgon is not happy about our progress and things start ramping up.
Unleash Revenant Pred.
Another flying enemy is introduced, even peskier this time. There are also a lot more bottomless pits everywhere, so anything that can knock you back becomes a real danger. It would be cool if Zero got some sort of a double jump upgrade. A lot of these deaths just feel really cheap, especially coupled with the shoddy climb detection. The later levels also lose some of that initial feeling of weight due to the more hectic combat and platforming. Relating to that, I also don't understand why there's fall damage in the game. This would be the perfect opportunity to give Zero a big slam attack, but instead he just kinda slips and loses some health. After stealing a few exoskeletons for our fetuses, we set out to pilfer a weapon prototype from a secret underground complex. Come on, that's just from the show. Yeah, it's all cool, man. I like Ava too. Anyway, we eventually get in and have to fight another boss. What's cool about this spider lady is that she actually uses the weapon you get out of beating her, a unique BFG-like black hole gun that you can't otherwise get. After the fight, Southgon calls us on our Nokia 3210 to let us know he did not appreciate our rambunctious pranks.
Hey, could you speak up a little? Can't hear you over the music.
Zero takes a short nap and then it's back to the surface. Southgon's pulling out all the stops, so we're left no choice but to gun for the big cheese himself. On our way to the palace, we have to contend with every single Mobile Suit Gundam in his collection, and the palace entrance itself is heavily fortified, necessitating a bit of cheesing. In the palace, we encounter the strongest enemy by far. If you damage him at all, he just fucking crashes the game. I legit thought my save was corrupted. I spent an afternoon installing fan patches and trying to fix this, only to find out you just need to restart the level. During this process, I also realized the game is just stretched to fit modern aspect ratios, so enjoy the rest of this footage in its intended format. Beyond this level, there's just one last hurrah for sewer spiders until we've reached the inner sanctum. Before the final showdown, you can resupply in the armory, even being able to select which weapon you want to use. Remember how I said keep the Hellspike in Valhalla? Yeah, the 2 best weapons are not here, and you'll soon find out why that's an issue. When confronted, the Southgon gives us a classic villainous spiel before getting into a huge robot.
House of John will never rule this city again.
This is hands down the most tedious fight in the game. I was playing on medium and with my loadout, I had to make every shot count. There is a set amount of ammo in this arena, and Southgon is just a big old bullet sponge. I actually like the idea of limiting your resources. After all, this is the last stand, but you need some urgency for that, and the battle is just very, very slow. It took me like 40 minutes to get through this because I didn't know there was finite ammo, so I got soft-locked, and then I got bored and zoned out on the second attempt and got caught by the death ray, which is partially my fault. In the end, Zero perseveres, and the Sovereign Khan is finally defeated.
Look carefully. This is the beginning. You are the future.
Before I get into my final thoughts on Slave Zero, I also want to mention this game has multiplayer. It was patched in after release, and I wasn't able to experience it back then or now, but it does exist. Another aspect I mostly glossed over is the performance. There were some issues, but this is an older title, and I can't tell what's a problem with the game and what might be the result of playing on a modern system. Also, I have the Steam copy, and from what I understand, the GOG one might be better in this regard. And don't get me wrong, a digital re-release of anything should work regardless, but I can hardly fault the original devs for it. I tried to be fair throughout this review, or whatever you want to call it, pointing out negatives and joking around, but the fact of the matter is, I still really like Slave Zero. The rough edges keep it from being a classic, but the fun gameplay, cool as heck art direction, and perhaps a little sprinkle of nostalgia make it a very unique entry, at least in my personal gaming history. And I'm giving this one a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Hey, thanks for watching and happy holidays. If you like what I do here, please consider supporting on Patreon. Or if you like gamer subs, use my code COREX for 10% off your order. And last but not least, a big thanks to my patrons. Anyway, here are some more videos and I'll see you in the next year.